In this video, I'll guide you through the quick and easy process of setting up raylib on your Windows computer and integrating it with C++ and Visual Studio. In just 10 minutes, you'll be ready to start using raylib to create exciting games. So, without any further delay, let's dive right into the tutorial. First of all, we are going to download Visual Studio 2022. Visual Studio is a software development environment created by Microsoft that provides tools and services for building software applications for Windows. Visual Studio includes a code editor, a debugger, compilers, and other tools for developing applications in various programming languages. It also provides features such as code completion, code refactoring, version control integration, and a graphical user interface designer. We are going to download the community edition of Visual Studio 2022, which is free from this link. We just have to click on the download button here. This will download the Visual Studio installer, not Visual Studio itself. When we run the Visual Studio installer, we are going to see a list of available workloads. A workload is a group of features and components that are required for a particular type of development. To set up Visual Studio 2022 for C++ development, we need to select the Desktop Development with C++ workload. When you select this workload, the installer will automatically download and install all the required components. This includes the C++ compiler, the C++ standard library, and other libraries and tools that are commonly used for C++ development. After selecting the desired workload, the next step is to click on the Install button. This will begin the installation process for Visual Studio 2022. The installation process may take a few minutes to complete, depending on the selected workload and components, as well as the speed of your computer and your internet connection. When the installation is complete, Visual Studio 2022 will launch automatically. To test if everything is set up correctly, let's create a simple C++ project. First, we will be asked to sign in, but for now, we can skip this step. We can select a theme. I prefer a dark theme, and then we press the Start Visual Studio button. Next, we will click on the Create a New Project button from the menu and select a C++ console app. Then we will click Next and give the project a name, such as Hello World. After clicking the Create button, the new project will be created in just a few seconds. We can test it by pressing F5 on the keyboard. A terminal window appears with the Hello message printed, confirming that our installation is configured correctly and that we can compile and run C++ programs. Finally, we can close this Visual Studio project. Next, we will install raylib so we can use it in Visual Studio. To do this, we will use vcpkg. vcpkg is a tool that helps manage C++ libraries. It simplifies the process for developers to install, update, and remove libraries on their computer. This saves time and makes it easier to use the libraries they need. First of all, we have to install vcpkg. We have to visit this GitHub repository. Now we can click on this button and select the Download Zip option to download it. After the download is complete, we have to unzip it somewhere on our computer. Let's unzip it at the C drive and let's rename the folder by removing the -master from its name. Now we have to open the folder and then right-click on it and select Open in Terminal. Now we have to execute the following commands. First we type /bootstrap-vcpkg.bat and we press Enter. The purpose of this command is to prepare vcpkg for use on our system. It downloads the vcpkg executable, which is the program that we use to install, update, and remove C++ libraries on our computer. Once we have successfully installed vcpkg, we can use it to manage C++ libraries and their dependencies on our system. Now we have to run the following command: /vcpkg integrate install. This command is used to integrate vcpkg with our Visual Studio installation. When we run this command, it sets up vcpkg so that Visual Studio can find the libraries that we install using vcpkg. Specifically, it modifies our Visual Studio installation to include the libraries that we install using vcpkg in the list of available libraries that Visual Studio can use. The last command to execute is the command to install raylib. /vcpkg install raylib x64-windows. We now have to wait for a few seconds while vcpkg configures raylib to be ready to be used in Visual Studio. Now that the installation is complete, we can close the terminal window and open the Hello World project we created earlier in Visual Studio. We can now use raylib in our project. We just have to include it like this. Include quotes. And as you can see, Visual Studio now knows that we have installed raylib and it displays it at once. We just include the raylib.h header file. Cool, huh? It was that easy. We can now compile and run the project, and as you can see, it runs. Our raylib installation works. Of course, we can't see anything on the screen, but the important thing is that it is compiled without errors. If I paste the code of a simple bouncing ball example and press F5 again, you can see a bouncing ball inside the window. Beautiful! Our first raylib project with Visual Studio is ready. If you wish, you can download this project from a link in the video description. Then you can use it as a template for all your new raylib projects. If you want to learn more about raylib and how to use it, please subscribe to my channel as I will post more tutorials on raylib. It is a fantastic library. I have created a detailed Pong game tutorial and a detailed snake game tutorial using raylib. These videos will teach you all the basics in just a few minutes. Click here to watch any of them. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.